First question, why are you running?
My grandchildren. Um, I begin to look at the city's finances and the financial picture, and where's Grand Rapids heading the next year, the next 5 years, and I'm like, as I begin to see that financial picture, I'm like, they're going to saddle my grandchildren with this debt that is just unacceptable, and I know that we can do better.
That brings me to our next question. The city budget, if you talk to the folks down at City Hall who are in charge of that, think the budget is stabilized right now. But there's also this admittance that one downturn in the national economy, and they're going to be back where they were back in 2008. So how do you approach the budget?
One of the things you cannot do, you cannot borrow to balance a budget. It's not balancing when you're borrowing money to do that, because those bills become due. And that's why I keep talking about this looming $1.1 billion fiscal cliff, because those bills will come due. You can borrow monies from here, you can borrow it from there, but the bills become due. When they become due, wow, what are you going to do? We have to start now taking steps to ensure that we have fiscal viability into the future. There are a number of things that have been done in the past, but as we look right now, we got to go into the future. You can't spend $3 for every one you're taking in. That's unacceptable. We can't do it in our homes. So the city has to tighten down, tighten up, and be good stewards of our citizens' tax dollar. Pardon me.
Where is this debt you're talking about?
Well, when you begin to look at, go on the city's website, when you begin to look at the number of monies, I'll give you a perfect example, was the 2010 police budget and millage that was passed. And we only got 3 officers out of that. And so, wow, where were those monies diverted? 90% of that 2010 tax was not spent on police. So it begs the question, well then, if it was not spent on the police, where does the money go? It went for other projects. We can't do that. We can't tell the taxpayer that this is what we want you to vote on, this is what we want you to give us, and then we divert it elsewhere.
2014, and one of the reasons why the city is, the folks in charge of the budget now think they've stabilized everything. There's a couple tax increases. You had the millage for the parks, and you had the road tax, which is extended from the tax you're talking about, the 2010 tax. Back after the road tax was continued in May of last year, the city manager told me on camera, he pledged this to be the last time he'd suggest raising additional taxes. Now, as a city commissioner, as a mayor, you can make that suggestion. You would, in fact, vote on it. Would you pledge not to try to put another taxation question on the ballot?
Definitely, definitely. What I see is that the monies that have been raised have gone elsewhere because the city has gotten away from its core function. Get back to the core function. Get back to the core function. Get back to the core function. I can't stress that enough. Get back to the core function. There are many things where the city, and I'll give you a perfect example, this 2016 budget. There's $2.5 million proposal for the golf course on the 28th in Kalamazoo. Why are we in the golfing business? It's only going to benefit a few persons, and we're subsidizing this. Why do we need to do that when monies could be better spent in core functions? Police, fire, public safety, our streets. Now we're seeing a lot of patching going on, not real street repair. And I have to emphasize that. Is this going to go away after the election? Those are questions that need to be asked. They're hard questions, but they're fair questions because we're dealing with the taxpayer's dollar.
Move on to another issue, race relations. Obviously made a lot of national headlines. There's several groups in the city trying to improve relations, especially from the police and the minority community here in Grand Rapids. Do you believe this is a major issue? And if you do, how do you approach it?
Just the fact that, look at me, myself. I experienced this. I've experienced racism. I've experienced incidents. And yet, you try to break down walls of misunderstanding, walls of ignorance, and that persons don't know you as a person. I often quote Martin Luther King, Jr., and he said that he want that people would judge him for the content of his character, not for the color of his skin. I've been about that. I've had a career of that. We started the Institutes of Healing Racism back in the late 80s because I saw that back then, that this is one of the problems. This is one of the things that's dividing us rather than us coming together in understanding, in promoting humanity. So I've seen that discrimination on both sides, and I've seen it happen not just black and white, but we're seeing it even now in terms of Muslim and Islam. So wow, we can go back into World War II, and we see it with Japanese Americans. Wow, those are things that you have to tear down those walls. But how do you do that? People have to be like understanding. So I've spent much time. I've been 35 years as a pastor, 40 years in marriage, and people are saying, well, aren't you afraid? No, I've been 41 years next month, just next month. Seems like, where did the time go? Time flies when you're having fun. But you learn. I've been 39 countries around the world, but it's always been about home. How do I better my community? How do I better my city? What can I do to positively impact and to help bridge gaps, make those bridges there that people can come together, people of like understanding and humanity, and help further our city. We can become an all-American city and not just in rhetoric.
Final question. You have an open microphone, open camera. Tell voters why they should support you.
Because I bring a wealth of experience to the table. I've been a school board member. I've been a city commissioner. The first 3 years under John Logie, last 3 under George Hartwell. I've been a state representative. So you learn the systems, you learn how they interact, you learn where things are, how to help your community by what's out there, and how to bring those things, those tools to bear to alleviate some of the pain, some of the suffering. Any given night in the city of Grand Rapids, there's almost 1,000 homeless people. Hey, how do we change that picture? Downtowns, it's good, but our neighborhoods, we can't neglect our neighborhoods. So there has to be fair and balanced growth. Our small businesses, we can't forget about those. We can't forget about our seniors. We can't forget about our vets, as well as our educational system. So I bring a wealth of experience that no other candidate has.